What's up everybody, NFX here with another tutorial. This tutorial I'm going to talk about making a drum kit, but this is kind of like part two. In the first drum kit tutorial I showed you how to make a drum kit or how to sample drums from an existing song, and then using Edison and its export features turn those chopped drums into a drum kit. In this case, we're going to come at it from a slightly different angle, and I'm going to show you a couple other tricks that you can also apply to that first tutorial, because I've learned a couple of new things in Edison. Okay, so the basic goal for this tutorial is to take an external sound source like a keyboard or a drum machine, and using that, trying to get the sounds out of that, particularly the drum sounds, sampling those, chopping those up, naming those, and saving those into a kit. Now, maybe you're lucky enough to have a real drum machine or a nice keyboard like a Phantom or a Motif. In my case, I'm just going to use an old Yamaha keyboard that I have. It's nothing fancy, but it's going to work for this tutorial. Okay, so step one is we want to get some input sound. We want FL Studio to actually be able to hear something and record. So what I need to do is I need to go to my mixer, and I've named this channel input, and I'm going to select from the in drop down the appropriate option. Now this is different for everybody depending on your sound card. Okay, so if you don't see what I see on the screen, don't worry about it. You just have to figure out what your sound card says. Maybe yours says line in, mic in, what you hear. It could be different. You're going to have to figure that out. There's really no manual or no way I can tell you without you reading your manuals and in your help files, or if I had, your device, then maybe I would know. In this case, I'm using a tone port. Good device, by the way, love it. But I need to select send 1 and send 2, and just to verify, I'm going to hit a couple of keys and make sure that I see the meters hitting, which I do. So I know that FL Studio now is able to hear the sound from my external keyboard. Okay, so step 2 is to open Edison, and that's just like always. You can the easiest way, I guess, is to just click on the tool that opens Edison. It's the one with the scissors that look like they're cutting up a squiggly line. So there's Edison, and we're going to select the now for the recording option, and then when I hit record, it's just going to start recording sound that I play on my keyboard. Two things to be aware of. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to hit the sounds, in my case, pretty hard so that they play kind of loud. Your device, your keyboard, especially the more professional ones, may actually play different samples depending on how hard you hit the key. If that's the case, you're going to have to listen for that and be aware of that. You may want to record them at different velocities. In my case, it doesn't matter because this particular keyboard only has one sample per drum hit. So I'm just going to hit it kind of hard, and that way it's kind of loud when it records. But the other thing you want to make sure you do is you leave a little time between each press of your keyboard to allow silence to be put in between the samples, and that's going to help Edison know how to auto slice it much better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start recording these. And then I'm going to hit stop. Now I only recorded a few. This particular keyboard has a lot more, but for this demo, this will do. And you may not want to do them all either, because then you have to rename them and everything. But anyway, let's continue. Okay, the first step we're going to do after recording them is decide if we want to normalize it, amplify it, whatever. You can do that if you want. I'm not going to do that here, but at this point, if you wanted to put any effects on it, you know, now would be a good time. But let's go ahead and auto slice it. And the way we're going to do that is by clicking on this tool button here, which looks like a wrench. And we're actually going to select trim all noise and slice up. That's going to do two things. It's going to make the slices like it would if you selected auto slice. In other words, it's going to find where the wave data begins and put a marker there. But also it's going to find where the silence is, and it's going to remove it. And you're going to see what's going to happen when I do that is now it's perfectly chopped every little sound so that there's no extra sound at the end. And it's going to give me just the sound I need. Let me go look at a sound like, let's say marker 2. Let's just preview it by double clicking and hitting play. Marker 3. Now, if you listen very carefully, at the end of this sample, there's a slight clicking noise. Listen again. Okay, so we want to fix that. And the way we're going to do that is by using the tool again and going to declick out all regions. What that's going to do is within each marker, right at the end of it, it's going to fade it out into silence, which will remove any clicks at the end of our samples. Let's listen again now that we've declicked it. So there's no click. It sounds nice and clean and perfect. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, so we're almost done. The next thing we want to do is we want to basically give all these names, because when we export these, we don't want them called marker 1, marker 2, marker 3. Yeah, we could do that, but that's lazy. And, you know, if we were going to, let's say, I don't know, try to sell a kit that we made, you know, you should have a little pride in your work, I guess, and give these things some names, right? So let's go ahead and use this tool, which is the Regions tool button. When we click on it, we're going to select Rename All. Now, there's also a quick Rename All, but we don't really want to use that. You could, what Rename All does is it plays the sample or the region, in this case marker, it'll play marker 1, let's say, and then it'll wait for us to give it a name, and then when I hit enter, it's going to play the next marker and wait for me to give it a name, and so forth. Quick Rename All does the same thing. The only difference is you don't have to type anything in. It'll give you a list of common drum names to pick from. So you can use either one. I prefer Rename All because I like to call mine different things sometimes. You know, if it's a hi-hat, I might want to call it, you know, hi-hat open number 2 or whatever. So, but you can use either one. I'm going to just do Rename All. And you see it's played marker 1 and it's waiting for a name. And this is obviously a kick, so I'm going to call it kick and hit enter. Now it's automatically played marker 2. That's a snare. Marker 3. It's also a snare, so I'm going to call it snare 2. Marker 4 is a closed hat. Marker 5 is also a closed hat. So I'll call it closed hat 2. And marker 6 is an open hat. Okay, so now I've got my regions. They're declicked. They're chopped perfectly. And we'll go ahead and do what I showed you in the first tutorial, which is export regions as. Okay, so now we're going to export the regions. I'm going to put them in M samples kits. I'll make a new folder. This keyboard is a Yamaha DJX, so I'm just going to call it DJX. And then the file name is going to be what goes at the beginning of the sample. So I'm just going to say DJX like that and hit save. And it's going to go and do its business depending on how fast your computer is and how many samples you're getting. It's going to take, you know, anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. And now let me go ahead and look for that particular item. So there it is. There's kits, there's DJX. I have it in my browser, obviously. When I click in there, boom, there are my samples. There's my kick. All my sounds ready to go. And then I could, you know, if I wanted to give this away or sell this or do whatever, I could zip it up and I'd be done. That easy. So I urge you, if you know, you're into trying to make kits, go ahead, use some of these techniques, do this. If you want to share your kits, you can always upload them to Warbeats. At the time of this recording, which is November 2008, we're holding a drum kit competition. You may want to make a kit and submit it. Make sure you read the rules on the site, though, and win free VIP at warbeats.com. But regardless of what you do, now you know how to do it. And this is NFX saying, I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial.